This is a story called The Little Monsters at Christmas, Chapter 11. The kids get trapped in a blizzard at Christmas. It's a beautiful, dry, crisp and sunny day, winter's day, and the kids are playing on the swing. However, after a couple of hours, they went back to Stampy's house for lunch. After lunch, they decided to go to the new skate park for a bit. After about an hour, Kicker said, "I want to go into town, guys. I've been saving up my pocket money and I've got £250 to spend. Are you guys coming with me?" Everyone said yes, because they too had some pocket money saved up that they wanted to spend. They took their skateboards home, got their money and told their parents that they were going into town. When they got there, they went around the shops and bought some stuff. However, after they'd been in town for a couple of hours, it started to snow, and they decided to make their way home. Just as the bus came, the weather got worse, and the snow turned to a full-blown blizzard. When the kids got off the bus, they soon realised that they'd got off at the wrong stop and that they were lost. As you can imagine, they were terrified. They grabbed each other's hands, but they lost their grip and almost ended up getting separated. Thankfully, they managed to grab each other's hands again. They kept walking in what they thought was the right way home. However, they soon realised that it wasn't the right way home, and that they were completely lost. As you can imagine, they were really scared, but they knew that they had to keep walking until they were home. By this time it was dark and their parents were desperately worried about them. There was a search and rescue party out looking for them, but no one could find them. In time the kids became really cold and tired, but they needed to keep going to get home. However, the more they walked, the more lost they became and the more frightened they became. They still kept going because they couldn't find anywhere to stop and rest. The more they walked, the more exhausted they became, but again they kept going because they wanted to get home and they knew that their parents would be worried about them. Eventually they found an old unused barn, and they went and snuggled up together for warmth. They went in and snuggled up together for warmth and slept. When they woke up, the blizzard had stopped and they decided to try and find their way home again. However, after they'd been walking for about an hour, the blizzard started again, but they had no choice but to keep going. They knew that they would never make it back to the barn because they were too far away. They just kept walking and walking, but they couldn't find their way home, and they couldn't find shelter anywhere. After they'd been walking for quite some time, they were exhausted, wet and cold, but they still couldn't find shelter anywhere, so they just had to keep going. Eventually they found another old barn and went and slept in there. The next day the blizzard was still going strong and all the kids could think about was going home. By this time they were quite weak, cold, wet and hungry, but they still set off to try and get home. They walked and walked, but again they couldn't find shelter, let alone find their way home. Eventually they found an old empty house and made their way there. When they got there, the door was open and they went in. They managed to light a fire using a couple of sticks, as there was an old fireplace with some logs by the side of it. They stayed there until there was a break in the weather again, and then they set off for home again. However, after they'd been walking for a couple of hours, the blizzard started again. By this time they were weak from hunger, very cold and totally exhausted, but they just kept walking and walking and walking. They just kept going until they could find shelter again, despite how exhausted they were. Eventually they found another empty house and went in, but they couldn't find anything to light a fire with, so they just cuddled up together for warmth. They stayed there for a few hours and then there was another break in the weather, so they set off for home again. Yet again they walked and walked and walked, and then the blizzard started again. They were terrified, but they kept going, hoping to get home soon. Then, as luck would have it, they saw a light coming from a house, and they went up and knocked on the door. As soon as the occupants opened the door and saw the state of them, they quickly took them inside. They had 2 kids of their own who were around the same age, and they gave them some dry warm clothes to put on. They were all very hungry, so the couple fed them a hot meal and gave them a hot chocolate to warm them up. They were all crying and scared, and they wanted to go home to their parents. The couple told them that they were safe and that no harm would come to them. They also told them that as soon as the weather cleared and it was safe to drive, they would take them home. They wanted to phone their parents to let them know that they were safe and okay, but the phone lines were down, so they couldn't, and they were all crying. They stayed with the family for a week, and then one day they got up and the blizzard had stopped and it was raining. The kids asked the couple if they could go home, but they said no because it still wasn't safe to drive. However, the phone lines were up and running again, so they were all able to phone their parents. As you can imagine, their parents were all crying with relief, and they spoke to the couple who were looking after the kids. They assured them that as soon as it was safe, they would take the kids home. They kept the kids with them for a few more days, and then they called their parents to let them know that they were taking them home. As soon as they saw their parents, they ran straight into their arms, and they thanked the couple for looking after them. The kids' parents also thanked them for looking after their kids and keeping them warm and safe. They all exchanged phone numbers and addresses and promised to keep in touch with each other. It turned out that in the new year the couple were moving to the same estate that the gang lived on, and their kids would be going to their school. Within a few days the kids were back to their normal selves, singing silly songs and playing tricks on people and getting up to mischief. For the rest of the winter they were too scared to go into town in case there was another blizzard, and they lost their way again. To be honest, their parents didn't want to let them out of their sight. Given what happened was understandable, really. End of chapter 11. Hope you like it, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.